I'm going to talk about what you would have in a typical low carb pantry. Of course, if you're carnivore and your whole family is carnivore, then most of this is just like you have meat and eggs in your and maybe some heavy cream in your and coffee, and that's pretty much it. But most people may dabble in carnivore at times to get a specific result or to see what happens when they do it. But for most people, they're going to have a general low carb pantry, which is going to involve a bunch of other foods, not just meat and eggs. And just a little aside that there's a lot of the pantry items that I'm going to talk about are mainly used in the production of what you might call copycat. So things like keto versions of the old sad favorites. And that there's a few schools of thought on this. Here's mine. Some people absolutely don't need them. There are people in the world who could exist just eating meat and cheese and eggs and be happy forever. There are another bunch of people who love the variety, they love cooking, they love all the different tastes and textures and so on and so forth. And that would be a really, it would be too big a thing for them to take out of their life and never have again, because, and I'm one of those people that I just love food. And that doesn't mean that I love eating a huge amount of it. It means that I love eating really good, interesting food. So
I know with my wife, it's like there's certain dishes that she wants a almond meal loaf of bread, a slice of bread or whatever to go with that food. It just that kind of food. It goes, bread goes with it. She wants it. She makes it. That's how she eats.
Right. So there are some people who just don't need it, but there are some people who are just fine without them. But that doesn't mean that it's wrong for you to do it.
Right.
There are some people who never want to give up those flavors or those tastes. There are some people who find that they need them just for the transition. I've met so many people who were like, Carrie, if I couldn't have had your keto ice cream for the first year, I would not have stayed the course. That was what kept me going. That being able to have that same texture, same flavors, all the same stuff, but without the load of the garbage, I wouldn't have made it through that first year. Now I don't eat it that much because I've kind of, my palate has changed, but I needed it to get me through the transition through the first year. I've had other people that said fat bombs. A fat bomb after dinner was just what got me through. So the people who are yelling that, we shouldn't be eating fat bombs, they're kind of missing a big part of the emotion of eating, and that, be that right or wrong, it doesn't matter. If having a fat bomb with your dinner is what keeps you on the keto train until you either get the results you want or you've got past the cravings, then have that fat bomb.
Couldn't agree more. I am all for stoicism and just powering through if that appeals to you. But, there's a lot of people that want a little more joy in their life. They're a little more Epicurean and they want more, they want sweet something or another. And there's nothing wrong with that, especially if it gets you, if you use it as a bridge to get you from one place to another.
I would much rather someone have a scoop of my keto ice cream every night.
Absolutely.
Than drive themselves silly and end up going to the store and buying a tub of Ben and Jerry's and eating the whole thing, right? So I would much rather that. So, but is it something we should do all the time? No, depending on your goals and where you're at. But is that an infinitely better choice than breaking down and going to the store for your Haagen-Dazs, your Ben and Jerry's? Absolutely.
Yeah. And sometimes you want to make food for other people than just you. Like my kids are grown, they're out of the house. I have grandkids now, but when they come over for Father's Day is coming up, this is, after Father's Day, but I'd like to at least have the option to make a really good ice cream that we can all eat together. And I don't have to feel guilty about it or some kind of, some kind of dessert after dinner, because they're not keto, they're just kids living their lives. But I'd still like, when they come to my house, I want to feed them good food.
Right. So with that in mind, here's a kind of a rundown, and we can put I have a blog post which gives you lists. I know people love lists, and we can put that in the show notes. But I'm just going to rattle off the main things that are in my pantry, bearing in mind that I develop recipes which include things for keto ice cream and keto baked goods, and the things that you may need in a transition, or forever, or for visitors, or you may not need at all. But here's kind of what my low carb keto pantry looks like. There's your nut and seed flours. So your almond flour, your almond meal, your coconut flour, maybe some sunflower seed flour, those kind of things. Those are the things that are typically used to replace wheat flours in baked goods. A little aside to that is that all nut products should be kept in the freezer. If you don't have a big enough freezer, in the fridge. Nuts are super high in fat, which is one of the reasons we love them on a keto diet. Fat does go rancid and quicker than you might think.
That's interesting.
Especially if
I
you
didn't know
live
that.
somewhere hot. So all nut products in the freezer, and you can actually eat the nuts out the freezer because they have such a high fat content. They don't freeze hard like a rock. And your almond flour, if you keep that in the freezer, you can literally get it out of the freezer 2 minutes. It's ready to use. So all nut products in the freezer. If you've no room in the freezer, in the fridge.
What about coconut flour? Does that need to go in the freezer?
I keep my all my nut products in the freezer. Okay. Pork rinds, your favorite. So this is one thing that's great if you do find that you have the munchies and you need a snack. Pork rinds are awesome. And I mentioned in last month's episode that you can actually get Carolina Gold nuggets. You can get them on Amazon. And they're like the little bits of skin, and you just puff them into pork rind puffs that you buy in the store. You just do them yourself, either in the oven or in the microwave. So they have a very, very long shelf life. You only puff the amount you need. You can add whatever seasonings you want to change them up. And they are unbelievably cheaper. I mean, like you can buy a huge bag for like $20, $25, which will last you a whole year. Versus the $4 a packet for the ones you buy in the store. So pork rinds are great in a pantry. Other things that I use in baking is egg white powder. I use that. Some people use whey powder. Egg white powder. So if I need to add protein, so egg white powder will help you give structure in baked goods. So some of my recipes will include egg white powder. The most popular thing to use in those instances is whey powder, but whey can be really insulinogenic for a lot of people. So a lot of people don't react well with whey, or it causes them to gain weight. So to make it simple, I switched to using egg white powder. If you're good with whey protein and you prefer to use that, have at it. But I prefer to use egg white powder because nobody responds badly to egg white powder, except if you're allergic to eggs. But so I have egg white powder. I do have whey powder, but that's not my preferred thing. Then your chocolate products. So your cocoa powder, which of course should always be 100% cocoa, no sugar, nothing else added. Chocolate, that can all be kept in your pantry. Flavorings and extracts, super, super useful. I use them a lot in making ice creams, or you can make beverages. There's flavors and extracts are a really great way to bring a ton of variety into your keto lifestyle that you might be missing. So I have a bunch of those. The other tools for baking include a couple of gums, guar gum and xanthan gum, and we're going to do an episode on those. So And also konjac or glucomannan powder is also something. So thickeners and things used in baking will be in your pantry. Gelatin and also collagen are things I have in my keto pantry. Super, super useful. Oils. You'll have oils in your pantry, but you want to stay away from all seed and vegetable oils. They're highly processed. They're really not good for us at all. So you'll want to stick to coconut oil, avocado oil, butter. Of course, for most people that would be in the fridge, but you can also leave it out. Ghee, lard, animal fats and olive oil is what you want to focus on. So you'll have those. Eggs. If you're not in the US, you can almost certainly leave your eggs out in the pantry rather than in the fridge. In the US, you have to refrigerate them because American egg producers wash
them.
The magic chicken dust that chickens put around the eggs when they lay them is washed off in the States, which means that the eggs, the shell is no longer protected. So eggs in the US have to be refrigerated. Outside the US, they don't.
That's interesting.
I'd never put an egg in the fridge in my life until I moved over to the States.
Really?
So, and backyard chicken eggs, you do not have to refrigerate. So if you have your own chickens, then you can just leave those out. Sweeteners. If you use keto sweeteners, they will also be in your pantry. There's a whole minefield that we'll do an episode on that as a separate thing, because that's a thing. That's a minefield of a thing, but you'll have some sweeteners if you choose to use them. Canned protein is something you might also keep stocked up. I have tuna, I have salmon, clams, sardines. I'm a huge sardine fan. Sardines are so fantastically nutrient dense. So canned fish products I have in my pantry.
Talking about snacks, a can of Wild Planet sardines. That's like if I want something, not an hour or two before dinner, pop open a can of Wild Planet sardines, and that hits the spot. It's good stuff.
Yep, sardines are awesome. Nut milks and also boxed stock, something I have in my pantry. So bone broth, which of course can stay out until they're open and then they need to go in the fridge, but an unopened bone broth, chicken stock, beef stock, and also the nut milks, your almond milk, coconut milk, macadamia, all your nut milks can stay out until they're opened and then they go in the fridge. Jarred tomato sauces, you do have to be careful, and we're going to talk about labels shortly, but like your pasta sauces that you would use for making a keto lasagna or all those, spaghetti bolognese, those are one of the few jarred things I have. Also tomato paste I have. As I say, you do have to be careful reading the label, but we'll go over that soon. And then of course coffee. You'll have coffee and teas. I love herbal teas, so I have a bunch of different herbal teas. And then seasonings. Their seasonings are a fantastic way, like extracts, fantastic way to change up your keto and make, really kind of boring things taste fantastic. Mm-hmm. So I have a lot of spices and dried herbs in my pantry too.
We talked, I think last week or last month or a month before about my favorite seasoning, and I think you said you didn't have it up there. Tahini? You don't have tahini up in Connecticut?
No.
I think it's a Texas thing because it's very much a Hispanic flavor, but it's chili lime salt. And almost any vegetable that we eat, Brussels, things like that, I'll put that on liberally. It is so good.
Yeah, there's some great seasonings out there. You do have to be careful because those manufacturers do like to put rubbish in them. Mm-hmm. But we're going to talk about labels, so you have to be careful with everything. But seasonings are a great way to change things up. Mm-hmm. Other things, we talked about tea jerky. jerky, if you need a snack, jerky can be a good alternative to pork rinds or sardines.
And
Vinegars.
really easy to make. If you have a dehydrator, we will, but knock out our dehydrator and make a month or two's worth of jerky, because it lasts forever once you make it. It's
Yep.
you gotta, if you haven't done it, try making your own jerky. It tastes great.
Yep. And vinegars. Vinegars can really make flavors pop in dishes if you know how to use them. So I have quite a bunch of vinegars. Of course, you have to read the label, but I have quite a bunch of vinegars that you can use to make some really cool sauces and dressings and make otherwise bland foods taste really good.
I just had an expert on glyphosate on here about 2 weeks ago, and she was talking about how if you have to eat food that's been treated with glyphosate, and most of us do, if you eat a salad or whatever, putting a little bit of raw apple cider vinegar on it will help the body break down the glyphosate, and can be a so if you have a salad with some raw apple cider vinegar and some olive oil, salt and pepper, not only does it taste great, but you're helping to kind of undo some of the damage that modern farming techniques have done to our food.
Yep, vinegars are super useful, and as you mentioned, Aaron, particularly apple cider vinegar is kind of magic. It's magical. It does lots of good things to your body.
Right.
So that's pretty much what my keto pantry looks like.
How do you feel about like kombucha? Do you drink that?
I really don't. It's not something I have found time to make myself, and most of the commercially available ones still just have a bunch of sugar in. There's a couple that I like, but they're $4 a pop. So once if I can find one that isn't loaded down with sugar or other things.
So I bought an inspirational book because I'm gonna make me some kombucha, and this book is absolutely beautiful. And I even have a kit in my pantry. I was like, I'm gonna do this, and then I've owned this for probably 3 years now, and have never even that might be the most I've touched it in 3 years.
Well, now you've put it out there now, so now we're expecting great things.
Oh, no.
But for me, it's if I can find one that doesn't have all the sugar or other things that I don't want to put in my body, then I have the cost barrier, So for me, there is a couple of commercially available ones that I like, but it'll literally be a once every 6 month treat.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think in general, fermented foods are really, really good for you. They're really good for your gut. It's just a case of finding the good ones. I know beets typically are too carby for a lot of people, but I have a wonderful jar of fermented beets, and I just have it as like a couple of tablespoons as a side. Almost like kimchi, like I'll just have a couple of spoonfuls of it because beets are very good for the gut, and so is the fermentation process. So I'll have that instead of having a sauce dressing. I'll just have a couple of tablespoons of my fermented beets, just from a health perspective. And of course, a couple of tablespoons isn't going to do anything to my intake of carbs, nothing appreciable anyway. So that's a basic keto pantry. Is there anything that you can think of in your pantry that I forgot, Aaron?
Yeah, you didn't mention olives and pickles. I do keep those in there. I guess you're not an olive fan.
Olives are proof that the devil exists.
Oh no! Goodness gracious!
So yeah, that's why they're not on my radar, because yeah, I'm not an olive fan, but that's purely just a taste thing. Olives are great, just not for my taste buds.
Yeah. So yeah, olives and pickles are probably the two things that are kind of in the back of my head that you didn't mention. What I'm doing is walking through my grocery store and seeing.
A lot of people, in fact, one of the kind of the urban, I'm not going to call it a myth, one of the urban legends is that if you have cravings, drinking pickle juice will really help with the cravings. Okay. So, and I don't know whether that's true because pickle juice isn't my jam.
No.
But that may be something that a lot of people have been successful with, is combating sugar cravings when they're new to keto with pickle juice. So there you go. Maybe that's a thing, maybe it's not, but if you like pickles, it's worth a try.
I can't imagine it's easy to eat something sweet after you cover your mouth in sour dill juice.
Pickle juice.
I think you're like, I don't want, I don't want that. That makes
Anyway,
sense.
we'll give you the, I also have a list of specific ingredients. I know people love to know specifically what brands of this and that I use. So I have 2 articles up on my blog, and the second one of which has the details, and it also has which brands I prefer to use. So we'll post those in the show notes, and hopefully that will be helpful for someone, or for everyone, maybe.
Good deal.